The Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram pairing hasn't worked so far this season. I've got some stats that will surprise you and the fixes the Pelicans need to make. It's a Wednesday, it's a game day episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcast and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Wednesday, a game day for the Pelicans as they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll be live right after the game doing another live recap show here on the Locked On Pelicans YouTube station, channel, whatever we're calling it here. But I want to get into other things here because we've got to talk about Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram just not working so far this year. Some stats that are really going to shock you about just how bad the pairing is right now and what it's doing to the offense overall. Some changes they need to make. Then I want to give you a rundown of injury updates because there's a lot of them. And you might start seeing some of these guys soon. So that's all in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today. And every day, we are here Monday through Friday for y'all, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team, the number one Pelicans podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Comment on YouTube. And support the channel by becoming an everydayer, 2 words, if you ask me. And that is by listening Monday through Friday, or just listen one more day a week than you normally do. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay, this is going to be a stat-heavy show. This is going to be a stat-heavy show, and a lot of this is going to be coming from cleaningtheglass.com. I've said that is an indispensable tool when it comes to basketball analysis and looking at the numbers. In the live recap after the loss the other night, we talked about the Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson pairing, and we've looked at it particularly over these past 2 games and how the starters just aren't playing well. It's worse than you think. It's worse than you think. When you look at all of the lineups featuring both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, here's a couple of things I want to put out there for you. They have a net rating, offensive rating minus defensive rating, so this accounts for pace, minus 14.9. It's negative. Negative by a lot, almost negative 15. That's bad. That's just bad. That's 7th percentile bad. Basically, about as bad as it could get. Their offense is literally the worst offense in terms of percentile. They would not crack 100 points per 100 possession. That's how rough it has been. And the numbers don't really get any better on the offensive side of the ball. They're 22nd in field goal percentage. Effective field goal percentage factors in that 3s are worth more than 2s. All of those numbers by themselves are not good. All of those things can kind of be fixed a little bit by more or less shooting a little bit better, making your 3s more, things like that. And then as I dove into all of these numbers, there's one stat in particular that you go, wait, what? And then all of a sudden, the whole picture made sense. This was the stat that kind of unlocked everything, in my opinion. There's a stat called free throw rate. And that basically means how many free throws did a team attempt per 100 field goal attempts. So when you're shooting, are you getting fouled and going to the line? The Pelicans aren't. Their free throw rate when BI and Zion are on the court is the 8th percentile. The starters, it's even worse than that for just the starting lineup. That starting lineup is not getting fouled and going to the line. You have Zion Williamson, a guy that should be averaging a ton of free throw attempts per game. The Pelicans as a whole actually are doing a good job with that, but not really the starters for whatever reason in that starting group. That is by itself concerning. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this. Zion for his career, where are the numbers? Averages 8.3 free throw attempts per game. He's down to 6.3. That's a significant drop. So I wanted to dive into the numbers a little bit deeper. So if they're not getting free throws, what's going on? What does the shot profile look like? They're in the 8th percentile in free throw rate. And when you look at their shooting profile, their shot profile. Shots at the rim, mid-range shots, three-pointers. This is where you're like, oh, I see it now. This is where it all kind of comes into play. The Pelicans, when Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram are on the court together, only take 32.3% of their shot attempts at the rim. That's not what they're shooting there. It's the percentage of all of their shots, 32.3% come at the rim. With the starting lineup, it's actually a shade under 30. Where did the numbers go? Do I have the league average? The league average at the rim is 33%. So they're just like a touch under that. Zion Williamson lives at the rim. Brandon Ingram has the ability to get to the rim and score. They need to be well above league average when it comes to taking shot attempts at the rim, but they're actually below it. 43rd percentile there. Okay, that's not great, right? Shots at the rim have the highest shooting percentage with it, your accuracy there. You want to be taking shots at the rim. You're closer. It's easier to score. When they shoot at the rim, they score 70.2% of the time. But they're not doing that much. And instead, they're having to settle for a lot of long mid-range attempts. All of their mid-range attempts account for 39.3% of their shots. 39.3%. The average is 30.9. So they're about 9-10% higher than league average there. All of their three-point shot attempts with the starters out there, 28.4, that's basically the remaining percentage of shot attempts are threes. 28.4, that's the fourth percentile. League average is 36.1. So when you look at their shot profile with the starters, it's horrifically inefficient. You're not generating good shots at the rim. You're not taking as many threes as you need to, and you're stuck settling for mid-rangers, which of all of the percentages have the lowest. And that's why their field goal percent is low. When you look at like the hierarchy of efficient shots, it's free throws are number one. Free throws are number one. Okay. After that, it's shots at the rim. After that, it's the corner three. After that, it's above the break threes. After that, it's shots in the paint that are jumpers. After that, it's mid-range. And the Pelicans are taking too many mid-range shots, and that's becoming a huge problem of why they are really struggling here. That's why they're really struggling, is the shot profile is off. If you're not getting to the rim, look, you don't get fouled on jumpers that often. It's from going to the rim and attacking. You have a lineup with Zion Williamson, and it only shoots at the rim 32.3% of the time. For his career, I dove into the numbers deeper here. First year in the league, 87% of his shots came at the rim. Second year in the league, 81% of his shots came at the rim. Didn't play his third year. Fourth year, 75% of his shots came at the rim. This year, 61% of his shots are coming at the rim. He can't go and score and attack the basket because there's no spacing out there for him to do so. That's a huge part of this problem. That's why the pairing of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson isn't working. And when you look at more of the numbers behind it, which we're going long in this segment, so we're going to do in the next one, we really need this to be addressed by the Pelicans. So let's look at changes that need to be made now that we've kind of identified that with the starters, spacing sucks, so they can't take an efficient shot profile, and there's not enough shooters out there with the starters, with it literally just being CJ McCollum to space the court correctly. Let's break down what that means. What do you do? How do you fix this? It is actually easier than you might think. Let's talk about that coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about Prize Picks because Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy, and it's the most exciting way to play DFS. And it's pretty simple. You pick two or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. And with basketball season and football season in full swing here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball in a specials league. For example, you can take LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of three-pointers made and receptions. And PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return for the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. And your entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. So it's super easy to go out and make those picks. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That is free money they're giving you right there when you make a $100 deposit. Again, $100 up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use promo code LockedOnNBA. PrizePicks, it's daily fantasy sports made easy. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday for y'all, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. A deep dive into the stats today, diagnosing what's going on wrong with this team so that you understand it better. No one else comes to you like this. There's a reason we are the #1 Pelicans podcast right here. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Support the channel by becoming an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. If you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below on YouTube. And if you really want to support the channel, join the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group on Subtext. The link is down below. $4.99 a month. You get a 14-day free trial. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. But you get to text me, and I will text you back. It's the best way to interact with me because I don't really use X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, nearly as much anymore. So we just went over what's wrong with the Pelicans and their offense. Bad shot profile, bad spacing leading to a bad shot profile. Eighth percentile in free throw rate. They're not drawing free throws and getting to the line with the starters. And so they're not taking shots at the rim because teams are just walling it off essentially. So what do you do? Okay, the easy answer is this. Play Zion at the 5 and play with shooters around him. Matt Ryan, Jordan Hawkins, when he's healthy, CJ McCollum. We'll talk about that in the third segment for injury updates, all of that. More small ball 5 with Zion with shooters. It worked against the Denver Nuggets. You're going to just get out, run, shoot, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You won't play defense, but that works. The other option, change your center to a three-point shooting center that does actually space the court. That is easier said than done. That requires a trade. You can't fix that necessarily tomorrow. So I think that one's kind of out. The other option is tweaks to the starting lineup. That tweak can be a sub, right? You know, Trey Murphy's not healthy, but if you put him in there for Herb Jones, Herb is shooting from 3 really poorly this year. When you look at them from 3 this year, you basically have 3 guys that are doing it for you. Kind of 2, because one's injured, right? Of players that are taking multiple attempts per game, more or less, you have 3. Matt Ryan is taking 6 attempts per game. He's shooting 42%. It's a great number. CJ McCollum is taking over 8 attempts per game, 38% from 3. That's fine. Jordan Hawkins finally got going the other night. Almost 8 attempts per game, 36%. Those are the only guys on significant attempts per game that is shooting above league average. Dyson Daniels, 35% below league average, 2.4 attempts per game. He's not even making 1 3 per game. Herb Jones, 3.3 attempts per game, 26%. It's killing the spacing, which thus hurts Zion Williamson and his efficiency in what he does best, which is scoring at the rim. Okay, maybe Trey in for Herb will space the court better. You can really get me behind that now when I wouldn't have necessarily said that before. But you need to generate more three-pointers in with that starting unit. It falls on one person, and you know who this is and what I'm about to say if you're an everydayer. If you're an everydayer, you probably agree with me. It's Brandon Ingram and the shot selection and the shot profile. Brandon Ingram so far this season is taking 3.3 3-point attempts per game. That's a lot of threes in there. He's shooting 15.4%. Teams aren't going to respect that shot. I like that he's taking them, but at least take them more. Here's the thing, and I just talked about this on Locked On NBA with John Corrales, right? Trae Young's not actually a good shooter. He's not a good shooter. Look at his career numbers from 3. Show me the 1 year, 2 years of his 6-year career where he was really good. And they're not even that impressive. He's had 1 good shooting year, and that's about it. But teams respect him from 3 and guard him deep because he takes over 6 attempts per game. That threat of a guy, not that good, but I'll make him, there you go. Brandon Ingram needs to be that. These long mid-rangers and the lack of spacing is just suffocating this offense, and it's why it's not taking off in the way that we were really hoping for. It's a bit of a miracle they're ranked 19th out of 30th when the starters are just looking that horrible and that bad. He's got to change the shot profile there. He needs to start ripping threes at a high volume, especially when CJ McCollum is out. There's no one else that can do this. Dyson Daniels 35%, I'll take it, but he's not going to start taking 8 attempts per game, right? Kyra Lewis Jr. is shooting 8% from 3. That's not going to be him. It won't be Zion, right? Valanciunas is shooting relatively well, 40%, but it's on only 2 attempts per game. And you don't want him taking 10 threes per game, right? Larry Nance Jr. is shooting 43% on 1 attempt per game. There's no other shooters on the roster until Trey comes back. It's really that simple. This falls on Brandon Ingram if they want this starting lineup to get going more and generate more offense. More 3-point shots, hitting a couple of those is going to space the court out and allow them to attack the basket, the rim a little bit more, put that incredible pressure on the defense. Zion will start taking off in terms of stats. That opens things up for everybody else too. Or just play Zion with the shooters. I don't know why it took 5-6 games for them to really realize, hey, we should put more shooters around Zion and go with the small ball 5. That shooters lineup of CJ, Matt Ryan, Hawkins, Herb or Dyson, and then Valanciunas should have had Zion in it from the beginning. You know, when it comes to what you can do in this game tonight against the Timberwolves, where you're going to need to score because Anthony Edwards is on a tear, it's this. These are what you can do. I don't know why Brandon Ingram is at times almost like reinforcing some of the bad habits we've seen from him, these long mid-rangers. He's stepping into long mid-rangers instead of launching from 3. He'll catch the ball in a catch-and-shoot situation, and he takes steps forward to take a mid-range shot instead of shooting. Part of it is his shooting form from 3, especially on catch-and-shoot situations, isn't great. It's slow. It's easy to get out and contest. So now he takes a contested 3-pointer, and if you're an everyday or a longtime listener of the show, you know that 3-pointers don't get blocked very often, and players don't take contested 3-pointers because why would you do that? It's dumb. He's taking a lot of, I don't have the numbers. Maybe I'll look at this and we'll talk about this, in the live show later tonight or tomorrow. But I'd be willing to bet that number for him is actually kind of higher than average, probably by a good bit. That's not an ideal situation. So he needs to take more threes. And it's also on the team to get him the ball in like his shooting pocket and areas he likes to get the ball to make that motion a little bit more fluid. It also could be, tweak here would be Zion with a jumper, but you're not going to get that right now. A mid-range, short mid-range jumper, Zion would hit on the high end 45, 48% of the time, under 50% of the time. I'd rather him just go to the basket, score 70% of the time. That's significantly higher, and do work that way. So they need to tweak this somehow because it's not working. Clearly, that starting group shouldn't be that bad, and they should not be that low in free throw rate. More space, attack the basket. You'll get fouled more. The refs will see it more. You're going to get and-1s. You'll score easier. It's just going to lift this offense tremendously and not be the entire slog that we're seeing it right now. These two players can coexist. They're not right now. They can. It's going to take some sacrifice, likely on Brandon Ingram's part. Is he willing to do that? That's the question I have right now. We don't need to talk about the Timberwolves. Although I will say this. Did you hear Anthony Edwards, the quote he had the other day? It's so good. It's so good, and it might actually mean something really good for the Pelicans. I'll tell you what that is in the next segment, and then we'll go through the rundown of the injury update. John Krause of Locked On Celtics said something on our Locked On NBA show that we recorded earlier, and I'm like, I would dig that because the Pelicans play the Timberwolves. It was after the Timberwolves beat the Boston Celtics and handed them their first loss of the season in overtime, where Anthony Edwards, maybe my favorite quote I've heard in a long time in the NBA. That'll be my game preview for y'all coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about FanDuel because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. You bet the Pelicans to win tonight because I don't know if Anthony Edwards is going to be playing in the third and fourth quarter. I'll tell you why in a minute. And the Pelicans win, you win your bet, and you get $150 in bonus bets. It's $150 if your team, the Pelicans, the Saints, whoever you want to take on the money line, wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time than right now. The app is super easy to use. I love it. It's very easy to scroll around, pick the bets that you want, and there's a wide range of betting options. Spreads, the money line, player props, over-unders, and more. You can combine them into a same-game parlay so you get an even bigger payout when you win. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to kick off the NFL season, tip off the NBA season. FanDuel, it's an official partner of the NFL and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Moneyline bet $5 or more, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets when your team wins. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The #1 Pelicans podcast coming to you with the deep dive on the stats that give you the context around why this Pelicans team is struggling offensively with the starters and letting you know that there's things that they can do about it. Look, the coaches and the front office see all of these stats too. None of this is a mystery to them. It's on them to put in the implementations and changes and all of those things. And certainly it means that if we're seeing this, they're seeing this too. And that's where, if you're looking for optimism around this team, that's what it is. I'm also a little bit optimistic about this game. Anthony Edwards beat the Boston Celtics, not single-handedly necessarily, but in overtime. And for the final 14 minutes of the game and OT, he played with 5 fouls, and he was aggressive. That was a fun game to watch. He was attacking. He was pressing on defense. For a guy with 5 fouls to not dial it back and play conservative was kind of surprising, and they asked him about it after the game. I'm going to paraphrase here, and they basically said, the question was why were you so aggressive with 5 fouls? Were you worried about fouling out? And he said, no, I'm not worried about fouling out. They don't want to see me out of the game. They, meaning the refs or maybe the NBA as a whole, kind of saying there's no way the refs are going to throw me out of the game because I'm a superstar taking over this game right now. So for the fans, for the entertainment value of everything, they're going to keep me on the court so I can play aggressive because I know they're not going to call fouls on me. And just, oh man, is that not a wonderful, the balls basically to go out and say something like that. I was going to call it irrational confidence to go out and say something like that, but it's not. He's borderlining on being a superstar right now, taking a huge leap, and I freaking love it. He's one of my favorite players to watch play right now. Just dig everything about him. But here's the thing: the NBA is going to hate that quote. Hate that quote so much, where he's basically just being yeah, this stuff's kind of rigged. The NBA influences officiating for ratings and for star players and stuff like that. What are the chances he's going to get a rough whistle in this game and foul out in the first half because the NBA maybe does impact officiating and all of those things, just to send a message of being you can't say that out loud, man. So we gotta do this so it shows that you get the same whistle as everybody else. I think he might be in foul trouble in this one, just based off of that. It's a little bit like tinfoil hat conspiracy theory-ish, but am I wrong? What do you think? I'm not sure that I am. There's your game preview of this. And we'll, of course, be live after the game Wednesday night like we've done the past couple. Those have been a lot of fun to do. Interact with y'all a little bit, give you my instant reaction. We can kind of freak out, win or lose, break down what we saw right there in the moment for all of us to hang out together. Y'all talking amongst yourself is great. Just be civil in the chat. That's all I'm going to say with that. Otherwise, I'll start... When people are jerks, it's easier to ban you than it is to delete that and keep you in there and have to pay attention to it. So something to keep in mind for the live show, which will be tonight, right after the game ends. Also on Friday's episode of Locked On Pelicans, going to record with Will Guillory of The Athletic, making his bi-weekly appearance. Is it bi-weekly, bi-monthly appearance, whatever it is. Every other week on the show is when he's going to be on with me, so we'll get Will's insight on the first beginning part of the season. Hopefully Aaron Summers next week as well. So a lot of guests, going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, all of those things. So as we wrap up the show, let's give you a rundown on injuries because it's been a minute since we've heard about some of these players. So let's start with CJ McCollum. We're due for an update in about a day or so. The team, from what I gather, is optimistic that he could travel to Houston. That's a really good sign. That'd be a very, very good sign. And Jen Hale on the broadcast the other night was really keen to say this is a very minor injury compared to the collapsed lung that he had before, the puncture that he had before with everything. When it comes to collapsed lung, one of the biggest things is air travel, change in pressure, and all of that. But if he's going to go to Houston and he's going to get on a plane, I'd say that bodes well for his ability to return sooner rather than later. But we don't want to put any sort of timeline on that. But that seems to be what the team is saying. Herb Jones had an ankle injury, as Nikola Jokic fell on it. He's listed as questionable for this game. Just one of those things, they might give him a game off just for it to rest a little bit, get healthy. He was standing in like the tunnel, really testing it, did come back in the game, didn't go to the locker room or anything like that. Questionable for this game. This one, I wouldn't be shocked if they just take him out just to make it a little bit easier, or maybe give him like Friday's game against Houston off. The three guys, though, that we look at are, other updates with the guys that haven't played really this season. That's Jose Alvarado, Naji Marshal, and Trey Murphy. Naji's about a week away from a reevaluation from the hyperextended knee. I'm just got to wait on that one. We'll see. Again, is he in the rotation anyway? I'm not entirely sure. Jose, we're due for an update almost any day now. It's been 2 weeks, almost exactly, since they said he would be reevaluated in 2 weeks. I think he's going to need more time. Watching him in warmups before games, you're not really seeing him jump off his right leg at all. It was a right ankle sprain that he's dealing with. Disappointing. I think this one's still lingering a little bit. I think, just based off my non-doctor observations. So I think we're going to see that take a little bit longer before we see him on the court. Certainly, I'd like to see him getting these minutes over Kira Lewis Jr. In terms of Trey Murphy, I think we'll see him take significant steps forward in about 2 weeks. Maybe eyeing an early December return. I can tell you'd probably like to play now. He would play now if the team would let him. They're not going to. But his recovery has looked good. Watching him warm up, seeing him move out there, he looks really good. They really could use him in the lineup, in the starting lineup maybe. That won't happen right away, but maybe over time. And at some point this season, you will see that, just to give more shooting based off of what we talked about in the first two segments. So there you go. That's all the injury updates for the Pelicans here. I don't have anything on Zion's cut finger. I don't know if that's going to be a big deal or not. But that's kind of where everything stands, I think. Game tonight. Live show after. Going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to hanging out with y'all then. So as always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NolaJake on Twitter. This has been the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be back with y'all after the game, live on YouTube.